You and I are mortal, but rock and roll will never die.
Okay. Alright, okay. I'm excited. Are you excited? I hope you're excited. Because now we're going to talk about Rika, who, in case you haven't noticed, I've mentioned a few times is my favorite character in the series. In fact, in all visual forms of fiction that I've seen, I'd probably rate her as my second favorite character. Not counting characters which are just recreations of famous historical figures, with some added dramatization. But still, that's pretty good. But like anything that I really like, I fully acknowledge that it is nowhere near perfect. It has flaws. And Rika is no exception. In fact, I think out of the three main kids, she is the most horribly mishandled. But as I'm going to explain later, in a weird way, this makes me like her kind of even more. It's a little complicated. Anyway, Rika and her Digimon partner Renamon were first introduced to the story. Well, she was introduced in the first episode when Takato had a dream slash vision slash telepathic link slash... It's never explained what he had, but he basically is flying above Rika, watching her and Renamon fight this Digimon, and apparently Rika and Renamon cannot see Takato. But after watching them fight, Takato wakes up in his bed and he thinks it's all a dream, but he finds his hand is wet from the rain, so he thinks it was real. It's never officially explained what this is. At least I don't think it is. And when I was younger, I thought it was implying that Takato had, like, psychic powers that were going to be explored. I mean, he has the ability to make rainbows appear, and he and the other Digimon heroes have the ability to feel their Digimon's pain. So, was there like a subplot or an explanation for all this that just got dropped and ignored? It doesn't really matter, but this dream slash vision, I'm just gonna call it a dream, it leads to Takato's fascination with Rika, who he meets in the third episode when Rika attacks Guilmon, trying to kill him so that Renamon could absorb his energy, which Rika believes will make Renamon digivolve and become stronger. Now, Rika's philosophy on Digimon is the exact opposite of Henry's. She believes that Digimon were meant to fight, and that they aren't really kind of real. Well, she thinks they're real, but that they are just an extension of the cards in video games. They don't really have feelings or personalities. They're only in the real world to serve humans and fight. And Rika's personality reflects this belief. She's very uncaring, very cold, and incredibly competitive. And she openly mocks Takato for actually caring about his Digimon. But hey, Rika's on a mission here to become the strongest Digimon tamer in the world. She's got no time for weaklings like Takato. At least that's her perspective. Now, I have learned the other day there is an actual name for Rika's type of character in manga and anime, and I'm going to try to pronounce it. Rika's character is a tsundere. 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 That's it. Tsundere. She's a tsundere. That's close enough, I guess. Anyway, like I said before, Henry shows up, and Rika is just so utterly disgusted by Henry and Terriermon and their whole lovey-dovey relationship that she just spares Guilmon for later just to get out of there as soon as possible. She does attack Guilmon again later on in the episode, this time in a parking garage. And it's this attack that prompts Terriermon to digivolve into Garglemon and just go crazy and start shooting everything. And then there's this little part in this scene that I actually really like. It's when Rika thinks she's about to, well, die, and she's actually shown to get scared. And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, why does that really matter? Why do you like that? Isn't that just supposed to be a natural reaction for a kid? And it's true, that is supposed to be like a natural thing. If a giant monster is about to point a gun at you and kill you, you do get scared. But I have seen a lot of characters that are introduced with the same sort of like setup as Rika's, you know, cold, emotionless killers, sort of adversaries to the heroes. Too often they're just shown to be stone cold emotionless. They don't act or emote or anything, they're just shown to have like no fear, even when staring death in the face. It just seems like they don't care. And I've always hated that format for handling that type of character by making them almost seem inhuman, and then softening them up later on to eventually have them join the group or whatever. But I like the fact that this show very early on establishes, I guess you could say, establishes Rika's humanity. It establishes that no, she's not some emotionless void. She does have fears. She can be caught off guard. I mean, she is a little girl after all. And this also may signify that even though she acts cool and tough, she still may be in over her head and may need help later on. I thought it was a really good, like, small little character moment that provides a good building block for her later turnaround and development. So this experience both terrifies and angers Rika, because she's been fighting so much and working so hard just to get Renamon Digivolve and become stronger. And Renamon has not been able to do that. But then she looks over and Terriermon, a Digimon who she just kind of dismissed earlier, does it even though it's obvious that Henry has not been training him at all. But she just refuses to accept that it may be due to Terriermon and Henry's personal relationship and love for one another that caused him to Digivolve. She just says, oh well, obviously we have to train harder. And after this little fight and skirmish, she does stop pursuing Takato and Guilmon and just focuses on killing different Digimon. This is also when the show starts to try to change Rika the same way it changed Henry, by slowly shattering their view about Digimon and forcing them to realize that they need to come together as a group in order to save the world from certain destruction. Because like I said, right now Rika has a very warped view about Digimon, that they are violent monsters who are only meant to fight. In fact, it's somewhat similar to Yamaki's belief, only the difference is where Yamaki sees this as a reason to, be afraid of Digimon and possibly work to destroy them. Rika kind of embraces this belief and tries to make it into something competitive. Because we learn that Rika is actually a celebrity in the Digimon community. She is the Digimon Queen, the second best Digimon card player in all of Japan. And that fact gives her kind of an ego. And that ego, mixed with her competitive solo nature, makes her our loner character for this season. In fact, out of the three characters, I think we see Rika the least. But I think that's just because she offers the least to the story. Like I said before, this story's main focus is definitely on the growing relationship between Takato and Guilmon. The story about how two know-nothings managed to come together, become friends, and later save two worlds from certain destruction. The other focus of the story is on trying to solve the mystery about what Digimon are, why they're here, that sort of thing. And that's where Henry comes in. He's the smart one, he's the philosopher, he's the one looking for the truth, he's the one that has a dad that worked on creating Digimon, so he has an in on the whole, what are they debate. Rika kind of participates in this debate, but not nearly as much as Henry does, because that is Henry's main tool of development for this arc, and the show pretty much says that Rika's beliefs are the ones that are the most wrong for this season. It's not specifically stated so, but it's kind of obvious the show treats her thoughts on Digimon as, them being the farthest from the truth. Now, her biggest amount of development comes actually from her relationship with the Digimon Renamon and their quest to become stronger. And honestly, the episodes that focus on Rika's development from that standpoint, I think are some of the best episodes in the series. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I think Rika has really good chemistry with her Digimon partner Renamon. Because Rika's development is kind of similar to that of Takato's, where a lot of it is focused on the relationship between the human and Digimon partner. Only Rika is a lot more experienced in the realm of Digimon taming, and Renamon actually is shown to be pretty competent, smart, and, well, not a couple weeks old. I'm going to talk about this later, obviously, but right now I just wanted to point out that these episodes that focus on developing Rika to make her want to join the group largely focus on changing how Rika and Renamon view each other, because right now they just see each other as nothing more than means to an end. Rika just sees Renamon as a game character who will heighten her own status in the Digimon community or whatever, while Renamon is okay with this characterization that she's put on her, because she just sees Rika as a tool to help her become stronger. So she's happy to have Rika believe whatever she wants to, as long as she keeps fighting with her and helping her grow stronger. But there are hints early on that they see each other as more than just tools and just kind of suppress those feelings. This comes out, I think, around the 6th episode when Rika and Renamon are in this fight way over their head. They're getting completely destroyed. And Renamon throws herself in harm's way to protect Rika, and Rika displays actual emotion towards Renamon, causing her to digivolve. And after they kill the evil spider thing, you have scenes with Rika, internally thinking about, well, can Digimon have feelings? Can they have emotions? You see her start to change a little bit. And to reflect this change, she starts to become a little more involved with Henry and Takado's plans or incidents or whatever. She's still the loner character. She doesn't hang out with them at all, but she is becoming more involved because originally, before this episode, Rika was only seen fighting just random Digimon that didn't have anything to do with any other part of the story, or in one case, her saving Takado and Henry from this Vilemon by killing it for them because Takado's too inexperienced to fight it on his own and Henry, doesn't want to fight or whatever. But she just came in the last second and killed it for him. And even then she only talked to Takado and Henry for a second before leaving. But now she's getting involved with more group efforts, like the plan to go save Guillemon from the renegade government computer program that ate him. But after all that, we have the beginning of the end of Rika's first character arc, in the form of the infamous Ice Devimon episode. Oh boy, is this episode uncomfortable. It's creepy because this whole episode is about Rika being stalked by some creepy apparition, and whenever it's near her, she gets very cold, and she begins to panic a little bit because Renamon doesn't feel it or see anything. Nobody knows what she's talking about. She feels like she's going insane. She starts to lash out and claim she doesn't need Renamon, she can take care of herself, she doesn't need Digimon partner to protect her. And then the apparition grabs her and pulls her into this dimension. And we learn that the apparition is a Digimon named Ice Devimon. And he is probably the creepiest thing I've ever seen this show produce. Not scary, but just creepy. Anyway, he has kidnapped Rika to try to convince her to be his tamer, because, and mind you, he says this in the creepiest way possible, when he sees Rika, he sees a woman who truly wants power and is being held back by her current Digimon slave, but if she simply submits to him and becomes his partner, they could truly be unstoppable. And he tries to convince her that they'd be a perfect pair because she's got this reputation as an ice queen and he's a Digimon made out of ice. And then to try to impress her, he shows her his trophy collection of all these Digimon that he's killed, some of whom were Digimon partners to other kids. And this actually has the opposite effect he hoped for, and Rika just becomes utterly disgusted by him. And she starts trying to break away, and he starts grabbing her. And it's parts like this, and some of the dialogue and images like this have led this episode to be the subject of several jokes I've noticed in the Digimon fandom. Most of them going something like this.
I love little girls, they make me feel so good. I love little girls, they make me feel so bad. When they're around, they make me feel like I'm the only guy in town. I love little girls, they make me feel so good.
Oh, okay, enough of that. I feel like I had to make some reference to the fan-interpret undertones of this scene, so there, I hope you're happy. Anyway, Takado and Henry show up to try to save Rika, but fail pretty hard at it. And then Renamon decided that despite being the recent victim of Rika's anger and abuse, decides that she still does have feelings and loyalty towards her human partner and comes and tries to save her, much to Rika's surprise. She also fails pretty hard at trying to save Rika, and Takato ends up doing it, which kind of an anticlimax. I think it would have been better dramatically if Renamon was the one that saved Rika, but she tried, and at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Now, the obvious ending to this episode is that Rika learns that Digimon can be capable of love and loyalty and all that stuff, and she should cherish her Digimon partner, who obviously cares very much about her, and not be so cold. But Rika's takeaway is a little different. She now believes that all Digimon are evil, and she hates them. Because although Renamon saved her now, what's to stop Renamon from turning into an Ice Devimon, a Digimon that's obsessed with power and abusive and overall just evil? So Rika runs off, and Renamon goes her separate ways, wondering if she could survive without a human partner. And the next 2 episodes deal with this issue, with Renamon actually seeking advice from Henry a couple times, and then just going off and fighting Digimon on her own to see if she can do it, while Rika, watches. And when she sees Renamon, operating so well on her own, she goes, well, I guess Renamon doesn't need me, and just completely abandons her. But then Renamon gets into trouble again with the Digimon she can't take on all by herself, and it's Rika's turn to throw herself into danger to rescue her Digimon partner. And the episode ends with Renamon telling Rika that killing all those Digimon didn't feel the same without Rika by her side, and Rika begins to emotionally open up and stuff, and she officially joins Takato's group. And then for the rest of the first arc, Rika's character is mostly focused on developing relationships with members of Takato's group. Rika begins to develop a relationship with Jerry, while Renamon works on her relationship with Impmon. I'll talk about all these later, but the main point of these relationships is to try to make Rika and Renamon more caring characters. And I like that. I like to see them get these relationships. And I like most of what the first arc does with Rika's character. I thought the pacing with her character was very good. For the most part, I felt like there was an issue with some of the pacing of her development just because she was such a loner and she had nothing to do with the group. It felt like some of her development came in just bursts, like, okay, she's absent for a large number of episodes, and then boom, episode dedicated to her. And then after that episode, they'll have her fall back a little bit, once again, not being really seen that much. And then after a little while, we'll have another episode dedicated to her. Like I said, it seems like it just comes in a little bit of bursts. But that's mostly because of the fact that we just see so much of Henry and Takato, because the show is about Takato. He's the main character. And Henry is always around Takato. So whenever either one of them goes through some sort of development, the other one is always there with him. They have a lot more screen presence. Rika has less screen time, but she gradually gains more as her character develops, which is fine. I know this season likes to take things slow. It's just that because she didn't have a lot of screen time before, it just made her development seem like it came in bursts when you'd give her entire episodes dedicated to her. But that's just me personally. But other than that, I like the conflicts that the show put forward for her. The conflict between her and her own Digimon, the conflict with her trying to figure out her own philosophy, and seeing her philosophy just kind of shatter, and actually see her react to it and try to debate it internally with herself. Something I didn't think Henry did all that much, which hurt his character development. And then you have the Devimon episode, which is one of my favorite episodes in the series. I love the atmosphere, I love the build-up, I love how creepy it is, but at the same time it doesn't destroy Rika's character. I was actually afraid that after watching this, Rika was going to turn into what I call a victim character. A victim character, under my definition, is a character, typically female, that is thrust in a lot of these uncomfortable scenes and situations that victimize the character, and are meant to make us feel sorry for or sympathize or relate to him or her. And don't get me wrong, having scenes like those are fine. The problem comes when writers choose to have those scenes become the main defining trait of that character. Like, instead of giving the character a lot of characterization or arcs or whatever, the main focus of that character just seems to be like, oh, look at this girl here. Don't you feel sorry for her? Oh, she's been through so much. Oh, don't you just feel bad for her? Look at all this creepy crap she's been through. Don't you feel all that sympathy for her? And I always hate those type of characters because it seems like the writers know that it's easier to write a character that the audience can just feel sorry for rather than a character the audience can actually like relate to on some personal level. But like I said, the show avoids doing that. I'm just right now trying to get all my basic thoughts about the first arc out of the way because I really like the first arc. And I want to express that in a way that you would hopefully understand so you can get how utterly disappointed I am in the second arc and how it handles Rika's character. And going into the second arc, I was really curious to see how the show was going to handle Rika's character from here on out. Because at this point she was one of my favorite characters. Renamon was still my favorite for the season at this point. But I feel like the show definitely set up a lot of things in the first arc that the writers could have used to expand her character, or maybe expand other people's characters. Like, for example, the first arc set up that Rika was like opening up to Jerry. And I was really curious to see how or if the show was going to use this at all for any sort of development. And if so, for who? Is it going to be for Rika's development, or Jerry's development, or even Takado's development? Because he, like Rika, does share a unique relationship with Jerry. Or whatever. I'm just trying to get across that there were a lot of options they could have taken Rika's development or Rika's character. And I would have liked almost any of them because I think the writing for this season is overall competent. I like Rika's character, I like the development choices they made for her thus far, which is impressive when you consider just how bad Digimon usually handles female characters. But this arc manages to piss all of that potential away by the second episode. I mean, the first episode was okay. I thought it started out okay. Had some cute little scenes. And also, I did like that it seemed like the show was going to focus on the characters as a group now. We spent the first arc setting them up as individuals, and now we're going to see how they work and as a group now in a completely foreign land that they don't really know anything about. Like in the first arc, Rika was the loner character who would just kind of wander off a lot while Henry and Takado would stick together. And she could do that because it was in a city she knew, or was in a setting she knew. And then she would just find Henry and Takado whenever a fight happened. Now she can't really do that because she's not in a familiar setting, and if she probably wandered off on her own, she'd get murdered, right? Well, the show found a way for her to wander off on her own. Rather, the show forced a way to get Rika on her own by throwing her into a teleportation portal. And it's around this point that Rika's role in the group goes from, tough loner girl to basically a glorified babysitter. Because when I say Rika's on her own, she isn't literally on her own, but I mean she is separated from Henry and Takado, the two other main kids in the group. So she does have other people with her, but the kids that are with her are like the weaker kids that can't really take care of themselves and need her to protect them or her to lead them. And it makes her the loner character again at a time I feel like the show should be trying to develop them as a group now. Like I said, they're in a setting that none of them are familiar with, on a mission that they don't really have a lot of direction for, with personalities that should clash a bit. I mean, Henry's kind of a know-it-all intellectual, Rika's a hard-headed fighter, and Takado's somewhere in the middle between them, just trying to keep everything together. The writers could have a lot of fun with that, developing the characters through conflict. It's great. But no, the show decides Rika has more important things to do, so they shove her in a portal and have her play babysitter to these two idiots to make sure they don't get eaten by these senior citizens. Then she goes and dicks around with a clock and meets Rio. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's why the show did all this. Why they separated her from the group was just so they can have her meet Rio and set up this sort of kind of not really character arc between them. Because originally when I watched these first few episodes of the second arc, I thought it was setting up an arc where it was going to try to soften Rika up even more. Because at this point, she's pretty open and likable, or at least she's nice. But she's still got that little bit of edge and a little jaded, which bothered me because I really liked the fact that Rika was becoming a more open character and she was developing. But I did like the fact she had that edge and, you know, she was still pretty tough, even if she was becoming more, I guess you could say, sensitive. But as soon as Rio showed up and saved Rika by killing that monster, and Rika made her disdain for him painfully clear, it clicked in my head and I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of these arcs. Where the perfect guy meets the girl of his dreams, but she's too stubborn to see how wonderful he truly is. But over the course of this adventure, this little girl will realize how wrong she truly was. And this goes on for the rest of the show, by the way. One of the final scenes that this season has is the resolution to this arc, and it is terrible. But I'm trying to save all my Rio stuff for when I actually talk about him as a character. But not a lot else happens for Rika. Most of the stuff that is important that happens in this arc involves Henry or Takato, who this show desperately tries to keep separated from Rika at all times. The big thing that happens to Rika during this arc is that she finds Calamon, but then immediately loses Calamon. So it was a zero-sum game. Anyway, the next big thing that happens to Rika's character is that she gets her Mega Level, which I've already mentioned is just laughably pathetic. Okay, so Henry and Takato already got their Mega Level. This is when they're going with the Sovereign to try to find the D-Reaper and investigate it or something. Rio's with the group because why not? So the kids are watching the D-Reaper destroy everything from this platform. The kids are concerned because I guess Calamon's down at the bottom of this cavern thing and they don't know what to do. So Rika just says, screw it, I'm going down here on my own, because I guess she doesn't want to stand around and do nothing. And then she starts like talking about destiny with Renamon, and she asks Renamon if it's possible to like go back in time and save Leomon or something. And Renamon says no, so Rika just at that point gives up on all of humanity. But then she finds Calamon, so she's a little happier, and then Rio has to swoop in and save her from death. And then Rio's like, okay, we got Calamon, we can leave now. And Rika's like, nope, you can take Calamon, I've given up on all of humanity, and I'm gonna go kill myself. You may think I'm exaggerating, but I'm really not. She talks about how life is pointless, and how we can't pick our own destiny, and then she flings herself off a cliff to land headfirst straight into the D-Reaper, which will kill her on impact. But luckily for her, this act of suicide forcefully triggers a Mega Level evolution. She's managed to survive. And I was sitting there thinking, really? That's the way the show decided to handle this? Like, Takato and Henry's had their Mega Level evolutions be like the resolution to an arc that had been building for like over, 30 episodes or so? Rika's is her reaction to an event that centered around another character, which she had nothing to do with. I was trying to think about why they wouldn't want to bring back a conflict from the first arc to, motivate her to Mega Level. I was thinking maybe the writers thought that they had, completely, finished off and wrapped up all of her arcs in the first arc and didn't want to reopen them again. Now, if I may be so kindly allowed to talk directly out of my ass here for a sec, and expound on an idea that I had that just came completely off the top of my head. What if maybe, I don't know, witnessing Beelzemon kill Leomon just so he can absorb his power made Rika remember how she used to do that. She used to kill possibly very innocent Digimon solely so she can make Renamon stronger and by extension make her more powerful. And maybe she fears that if she gets a Mega Level evolution and fuses with Renamon and thus becomes a Digimon herself, that she will turn into a Beelzemon type character, only obsessed with power, basically going back to the way she was. And because of that, doesn't feel comfortable with Digivolving to the next level. But Renamon talks to her and it's like, oh Rika, you've changed from that person that you were and now you're much better. And she digivolves in order to save Calamon from the D-Reaper. That's not the best, probably way that she could get a Digi-evolution, but I'm just talking off the top of my head and trying to come up with a way to incorporate a conflict from the first arc to, have it relate to this evolution, similar to how they did it with other kids. Therefore, making the evolution more specific to her character and feel like it's wrapping up a character arc, and not just a bunch of nonsensical actions that aren't really character specific. Like, I feel this way to get an evolution could have fit any of these characters, while Takado's and Henry's seem much more geared towards their specific characters. Personally, I blame Rio for everything, but we'll talk about that later, because we have to get through this. I've been talking for a long time. I don't think we need to say much about the third arc, because most of the things that happen for Rika there are more relationship specific, involving Rio or her family members or whatever. So I think I'm just going to skip to the relationship section of this part. So while Rika is the most isolated character in the group, she does have some specific relationships. As I mentioned before, she has a relationship with Jerry, which I guess you could describe as like a mentor relationship or like a big sister, little sister relationship. Because when Jerry joins the group and when Rika becomes more active in the group, she begins to take Jerry under her wing, teaches her how to play the card game, and they definitely have a bond. And I like this relationship. It shows Rika's character becoming more involved in the group at a gradual pace. And Jerry herself is a likable character, and I think it's kind of cute how they get along so well. I just wish the relationship came into play more during the second arc to further Rika's development and possibly Jerry's development and, like I said, even possibly Takado's development. Impmon I'm going to save for when I talk about Renamon. I already mentioned how Rika and Takado have a relationship that can be largely left up to fan interpretation, whether or not it's just comedic awkwardness or intense flirting. But Takado, being the main kid, has to have some relationship with all the kids in the group. At least all the main kids. And his relationship with Rika is kind of similar to that relationship he has with Henry. She's sort of like a mentor. It's just that she's a lot more detached. She barely talks to him. Henry's the person Takado always goes to talk to whenever he has a problem. I can only remember one example when Takado goes to Rika, and that's during the first arc, when Takado confronts Rika about how she appeared in one of his dreams, and also how, they should be friends and team up to fight Digimon or whatever. And Rika's just like, wait, you're having dreams about me, you freak? And then she just kicks him out of her house. It's great. She doesn't really have a relationship with Henry. They barely communicate. She kind of has a relationship with Calamon, because he's the first thing that begins to soften her up a little bit, because apparently he's just so cute. And she does save him twice. And I mean, it's nice, I guess, but to me it's just not anything that's too special. And then there's Rika's family. Rika has one of the more troublesome family relationships. First off, her dad's not around. It's kind of safe to assume the dad walked out on the mom. It's never confirmed what exactly happened there, but to make things worse, the mom is a supermodel who, while she does make a lot of money and provides for the family, she's not really around that much to raise Rika. And they have this big detach between them. And the mom does try to bridge this gap, but instead of hanging out with Rika, she tries to force Rika to be more like her, aka be more foo-foo and fashion model, and she takes her to a photo shoot where she forces her to wear... Oh.
You look like an angel.
She just looks so adorable. Anyway, Rika gets camera shy and punches a guy in the face. It's pretty cool. I like that scene. Anyway, it is shown that Rika does care about the mom, because when she's about to leave for the digital world to try to show that she does care and does love her mom, she puts on that dress. And it makes the mom realize, we may not get along, but we still do love each other. I like that scene also. I like the scenes relating to Rika and her mom. They're either hilarious or adorable. In the end, the mom accepts Rika for who she is and says she's okay with her daughter being different from her. Blah, 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 it's all cute. Rika's also got a grandmother who acts as like a mediator between the mother and daughter. She apparently does a lot of the raising in the family while the mom's out touring the world. I like the grandmother. She's an okay character. Then there's Rika's relationship with Rio. This to me is the worst, most damaging relationship in the series. This is outright terrible. And the second arc with Rio should have completely destroyed Rika's character. But honestly, in some weird way, it made me like Rika's character even more. And I was trying to think about why, because Nene has a very similar story to Rika's. She was a strong female character who I really like. She was my favorite character during the first arc. Thought she got some good development. I like to see her become, less dark and less edgy and more open to the group and stuff like that. And then the next arc completely destroyed that, mishandled her character terribly, and I thought it completely ruined her character. But I was trying to think about why my opinion of Rika can go stronger after a bad arc, while a bad arc can completely destroy my opinion of Nene. And I think I figured out why, and it is solely because of Rio. Rio is a cock bag. He is a bag of cocks. But he is almost everything I think the second arc did wrong, molded into one character. And Rika despises him. Like, Nene's character seemed to embrace the new changes. She embraced becoming fan service. She embraced, basically becoming some really lame comic relief and executed all of it horribly. But because in Tamers, Rika and Rio have this rivalry, and I just cannot stand Rio. Like I said, I think he embodies so many of the mistakes that this season implemented during the second arc, and Rika just is utterly disgusted by him. It makes me really root for Rika's character. Because she'll start trash-talking him, telling him to shut up, and we don't need you around here. And I'm relating to it because I'm like, yeah, I hate this character too. It's just one of those things, you've got a character that you like that hates a character you also hate. And that makes you like that character even more. I don't know if that makes sense, but it does to me. And I'm tired, so I'm going to start talking about Renamon now. So Renamon is actually, I think, a very interesting Digimon partner. She's officially introduced to the show when she attacks Guilmon, and she's shown early on to have several of the same... take that furry crap down! God damn it, we're not gonna do this. No, down. Okay. So, she's shown early on to be very similar to Rika in terms of personality. She's the most adult Digimon partner that this season has. She's definitely the most mature, and is actually fully capable of operating on her own without any help from her human partner. She differs wildly from Guilmon and Terriermon in that respect, and also, she's probably the first Digimon partner that's not really a fun Digimon. Digimon like Guilmon, Tentamon, Armadillomon have all been like very fun-loving, happy creatures. Renamon is not that type of Digimon. In fact, Renamon's characteristics more closely resemble a human over a Digimon. In fact, her personality and character conflicts basically are almost identical to that of Rika's. Because Rika's whole conflict is that she needs to learn that power isn't everything, and she needs to learn to see her partner more as a friend rather than just a tool for her own personal gain. Which is basically what Renamon also has to learn to do. I mean, they start out in the series both wanting the same thing, very in sync with each other. In fact, they're so in sync that Rika can apparently psychically communicate with Renamon. Okay. And the show does stress that they seem to have a very close, yet not personal relationship. And their arcs are so intertwined with each other, and they hit so many similar bumps and turns. Like they're both growing feelings towards each other, but they're afraid that if they reveal that, then it's somehow going to corrupt their relationship that they have now, which could end up damaging their prospects for power. Because despite spending, obviously, a lot of time with each other, all they know about one another is that they both want to grow stronger, and that any sort of signs of compassion could be interpreted as weakness. And then either one of them could just end up abandoned because Rika thinks, well, Renamon could just always get another Tamer if she doesn't like me, and Renamon thinks, well, Rika can just always get another Digimon if she doesn't like me. So you have that sort of, I guess you could call it fear, I don't know. And it does reflect how these two came to meet, because Rika and Renamon became partners after Rika had just finished winning some tournament or whatever. And then gates to the digital world open, and Rika starts getting accosted by all these Digimon begging her to be their tamer, and Rika just picks Renamon because apparently she's the strongest one there, and they say, well, together we can be the strongest partner team ever. So when the partnership started, that's all they knew about each other. Both of them just wanted to become stronger. They didn't really have anything else besides that. So yeah, like I said, their whole arc is just learning to accept one another, and it's a joint arc too. They both grow, I would say, almost equally. Like I said, they hit a lot of similar beats. Like, the whole arc kind of starts when Rika starts, you know, wondering if she does have feelings for Renamon. Maybe I do see her as a friend and not just an object. And Renamon's starting to wonder the exact same thing. And then Rika feels like she doesn't need a Digimon partner and can take care of herself. Then she gets attacked, and Renamon needs to throw herself in danger to save Rika. But Rika then kind of freaks out and cuts off all of her ties with Renamon, which allows Renamon's development to kind of take over this last part of the arc. Because now we're focusing on Renamon, wondering, well, do I even need a human partner? Do I actually care about Rika? She starts talking to Henry about it, and she kind of decides she doesn't until she enters a fight that she can't handle, and Rika has to risk her life to save her. And then they come to that realization at the same time, like, okay, we do care about each other, blah, blah, blah. So now we're in the second half of the first arc, and this is when they both start softening up a bit. And they have relationships with characters to help them do this. So Rika had Jerry, who does Renamon have? Well, Renamon has Impmon, who she meets very early on in the season, and they have this weird type of relationship. I don't want to say it.
Ooh.
I got off track again. Where was I? Oh yeah, relationship with Impmon. Yeah, it's kind of weird because I'm not sure exactly what she's trying to do. Sometimes it seems like she's just following him to try to learn more about him, and then other times she's trying to mentor him, even taking a tough love approach where she lets him almost get killed before saving him at the last second. But this creates some kind of bond between them. If it's not a romantic bond, it's more of like an adopted mother sort of bond, I guess. I don't really know. But they do have scenes where you can definitely tell there's supposed to be something, like the scene where Renamon is pleading to Impmon when he's Beelzemon, begging for him not to kill everybody. Now obviously this doesn't work, but somehow they still have this connection where even after Impmon has cold-bloodedly murdered one of their friends right in front of them, Renamon, and by extension Rika, both decide to risk being left behind by the Ark to go save him so they can bring him back to the real world. I guess they see him as a lost soul who was consumed by the need for more power, similarly to how they were, and they feel sorry for him. I don't really know. I just wanted to bring this up because I want to show you why I think that this season put a lot of focus into Renamon's character, a lot more than you would expect for a Digimon. Like even in this season, like Terriermon doesn't really change as a character. There's no real arc for him. Guilmon is part of an arc, but that arc is mainly focused on developing Takato. Guilmon doesn't really change that much as a character other than becoming more obedient, while Takato's the one that mostly has to learn and grow and that stuff. But with Renamon, she's mature enough and independent enough from her human partner that she can grow and develop on her own, which gives her her own unique feel amongst this season. And I like that. I feel like all the Digimon partners have their very own unique style and presentation. And if you remember, I've complained a lot about other seasons that just kind of feel like all the Digimon partners just have replaceable personalities. But this season definitely takes the time and effort to give each partner their own sort of feel and personality that you can kind of relate to. And each one benefits their human partner differently. Like I said, Guilmon helps Takado's character develop and mold into a character who can really take charge and kind of lead this group that he's formed. While Terriermon's meant to, just lighten Henry up a little bit. While Renamon gives Rika, the loner character, somebody she can talk to that's about on the same intellectual plane that she is. And who also happens to be wrestling with a lot of the same conflicts and demons that she is. So overall, I like this relationship, and I like to see, Digimon partners actually having their own sort of character arcs. And not either just be tools of their human partner's character development and actually kind of become independent a little bit. I mean, Renamon even has her own little excursions at points. Like, during the first arc when the Devas were attacking, there's this one Deva that's in love with her, and keeps trying to convince her to join him and join the Devas, that sort of stuff. And Renamon seems to accept abandoning Rika for a short period of time, and, Rika begins to mope about this, whoa, is it my fault, that type of thing. And of course, Renamon isn't really thinking about joining the Devas, she just did it to get information, I think. I don't know, it wasn't like a big, important plot point, but it did just help establish that Renamon is her own individual character, and can be separated from Rika. And also, I guess, resurrect some of those earlier first arc tensions. I feel like I've said enough about this. Let's just do evolutions, then move on to final thoughts. Renamon's rookie design, I think, is overall okay. It's something I would consider, like, outstanding. I mean, it looks fast, and it's kind of has this ninja feel with those pretty cool purple gloves with the yin-yang symbol on those. I like that. And if that's the feel this design's going for, it accomplishes it. I just really don't like the color yellow, but I know why they picked it. You can't take red, that's Guilmon. You can't take green, that's Terriermon. And blue is too similar color to the purple gloves, so from a color standpoint, it wouldn't make much sense. And yellow, it's a primary color. I just happen to despise it immensely. I don't really have a lot to say about this design, and I want to move on quickly before more of those. God damn it! Okay, moving on. So then there's Cubimon, which is kind of like just a bigger Renamon, but I feel like they change and add enough to this design when you compare it to the rookie design to make it its own creation. Like I mentioned before, Growlmon just looks like a bigger Guilmon with a mullet. This, actually, they change enough about it. It stands on 4 legs instead of 2 now. It's got more tails. It's got this bell thing. I don't know what that is. And for some reason, I find this design kind of cute. It kind of looks like an elegant dog. And you know me, I love dogs. I don't have a lot to say about this one either. What's next? Oh god, this thing. This is Daomon. We're not doing the animal thing anymore. We're moving Renamon's evolutions into more human types. And I can't remember if I called War Growlmon the worst evolution of this season. If I did, I am mistaken. Daomon is the worst evolution of this season. Look at those ridiculous shoulder pads and that stupid looking hat. And yes, I know it's a reference to some ancient Japanese getup. I know. It looks stupid back then, it looks stupid on this fox creature. Just some things are better left in the past. Let's just leave it at that. And is it just me, or does its mask kind of resemble Mega Gargamon's face? Ugh. So it's obviously going for some sort of priest or exorcist outfit, because Rika is so spiritual? I thought Henry was the one that was more into that sort of stuff. And it doesn't look fast anymore. Like, I thought that was a big thing for Renamon, was that she was fast, and Cubimon looked pretty fast. This one just looks bulky and slow. It doesn't seem to match the other evolutions very well. But then we got Sakuyamon, and I actually really like Sakuyamon. But according to the website, there was some controversy with it, because apparently the creators wanted to keep Renamon and all of her evolutions kind of genderless. Because it seems officially Digimon don't have genders, even if it seems like they do. And this actually led to a little bit of confusion internationally, because in some dubs, Renamon is voiced by a female, like in the Japanese and English version. But I believe the German version has Renamon voiced by a man. That's interesting, I guess. But anyway, so the writers were a little bit confused when Tsukuyomon's design got chosen because Tsukuyomon definitely seemed very feminine, and they decided to roll with it, apparently. But like I said, I dig Tsukuyomon. I like the armor, even though it's yellow. I think the purple clashes with it beautifully. The mask is definitely an improved design from the last evolution. It definitely pulls off the spiritual priest or priestess outfit better. I like the black parts of the armor. It's got cool little boots. It's got a dumb little fox symbol on its belt buckle, but it kind of reminds me of that dumb, like, dinosaur head on Gallantmon's helmet. But then again, I think Gallantmon and Tsukuyomon make a good couple design-wise. I just feel like their colors and contrast complement each other very well. And it's a good dynamic, I guess. You've got the strong, brave knight and the pure, spiritual priestess who will heal him in battle and whatnot. And then you've got the 20-story high giant mechanized death machine awkwardly standing behind them as he's waiting to blow something up. Yeah, it doesn't really fit that sort of traditional warrior feel that the other two have. I do have one problem with Tsukuyomon, it's just that its fighting style I feel doesn't match Rika's character personality. Because it's more of a healer and more of a defensive style fighter than, say, Gallantmon or Mega Gargomon. And I know why they gave Rika's character this style of Digimon, oh, she's, grown to be more compassionate, now she just wants to help people. But I feel that the fighting style of Tsukuyomon, which is largely just protection of others and healing the wounded, fits more with Henry's reformed personality. Because the only reason Henry really chose to fight was so that he could protect the people he loved and cared about. So it seems like an evolutionary series that focused a lot on, protection spells, shields, and stuff like that would fit more of his personality. Also him being more traditional, obviously, with some of the earlier scenes we've seen him in. I just feel like that would fit him better. I'm not saying give Rika Mega Gargomon's evolution, because his whole nuclear arsenal doesn't fit her character either. But just give her an evolution that, plays to her strength, which is her fighting. And I mean, you don't have to make her a kill-crazy machine, but at the same time, you shouldn't make her completely defensive. She is supposed to be the strongest fighter after all. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about the evolutions. Let's just do final thoughts. I've been spending some time trying to think about why Rika is my favorite character in this series, and I believe I found the reason why. To me, Rika is almost everything I love about this season mixed into one character. The season likes to work a lot with mystery, and Rika, when she's introduced, is a very mysterious character. We don't know anything about her other than the fact she appeared in Takado's dreams and that she really loves to fight. And honestly, in the first couple episodes, she is the closest thing this show has to an antagonist. She directly fights Takado a couple times, and is the one most turned off to the idea of a group. I mean, granted, fighting stuff only happened in one episode, and Henry was also resistant to the group, but still, she's more of an antagonist than Yamaki at this point. And I was actually pretty psyched to learn more about her, but I was also really skeptical. Kind of similar to how I was with Takado, with his whole concept of being, just an average kid getting a Digimon. I mean, I was excited to see a female character that actually might be cool, but I was like, Digimon, female characters, not the best track record. So I was thinking I could get excited, but don't get too invested because this character is probably going to let me down. And she really didn't for the first arc. And I ended up really liking her as a character. She was really interesting to watch for the first couple episodes because you were trying to figure out more about her. Like I said, she was introduced kind of mysteriously. But I thought the way they handled her development with the group and her Digimon partner and her family incredibly well. I already talked about how I like seeing a human and Digimon partner processing the same events that happen to them, but just from a different perspective and independent from each other. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I like the Ice Devimon episode so much. Because on top of just being a good episode, it led to a lot of this development. Now, you may be thinking I'm focusing a lot on the development, but I am, just because it's the big thing that won me over to a lot of these characters. I mean, Rika's no different. When she started out, I thought, she was cool, but at the same time, I thought she was kind of one-dimensional. I want power, I want to fight, blah, 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 blah. But you fix that by developing the characters, making them more relatable or likable through events that happen in the story, and humanizing them a bit. And I thought Rika humanized beautifully. She developed similarly to Takato, learning from failures, and the way they handled her home life I thought was actually really smart. Rika doesn't have a dad, but the show doesn't draw that much attention to it. And according to the writers, originally they were going to, but they decided not to because after studying kids that just have one parent, the writers realized that these kids are still pretty normal. If it does affect them, it's in a very subtle way, and that's kind of how it is with Rika. The fact that she's being raised by a single parent doesn't define her, as opposed to the way I think tragic backstories kind of came to define certain characters from other seasons. But I mean, you can make the case that it explains some of her like detached behavior or coldness to others, but that's just speculation. I think the dad's only mentioned once in the whole run of the show, and that was Rika trying to sympathize with Jerry. I found the conflict with the mom kind of interesting, you know. We can all relate to a parent maybe trying to push us a certain direction in our life, or not really understanding what we're into when we were like 10 or 11. I don't know. I just really liked that relationship. I liked the way it played out, and I like to see it develop. And how they'd sometimes try to tie it into Rika's relationship with Renamon, I thought was kind of cool. I'm honestly a bit nervous because I've talked a lot about how I thought Rika was my favorite character. I'm trying to like get out all the reasons why and explain it. But there's only so many ways I can say I just really liked the way she developed, and I liked the way her character interacted with her parents and her Digimon partner. I like the fact that she started out as this cold character who did change into, I think, a very versatile one. She could be mean, she could be narcissistic, she could be caring, she could be very funny, she could be the most irrational person in the world or the only sane one in the room. If the show wanted her to be adorable, god damn it, she was going to be adorable. I mean, look at that pineapple-shaped head. Look at me in the eyes and tell me that's not cute. I think it's kind of funny because she kind of rivals Terriermon, I think, is one of my favorite, most cute characters in this season. But at the same time, she's easily the most badass and kick-ass character in this season. I think that's funny for some reason. But just to make a long story short, I thought that she and Renamon were very likable characters, very relatable. And I just like to see their characters grow both separately, but also kind of at the same time intertwining their own development together. And I feel like I can't say more than that. She's just a kick-ass rocker chick. Now, I did mention before I had quite a few problems with her during the second arc, but I'm going to save all that for when I talk about Rio. Anyway, I hope this kind of helped explain why Rika is my favorite character in this series. We're going to talk about Rika more when we get to a certain movie. Ugh. But for now, I thought I'd just take some time to address something I've noticed going on in the comments. One of you asked who I thought the second in command for this season was. Is it Henry or is it Rika? And I thought I might address it, I'm not really sure. And then I decided to take a break from checking my email for a couple days. And when I come back, I have over 60 messages from you guys debating this. So I guess it's a real hot button issue. I haven't read all the messages and I keep getting them, so I'll try to give my own original thoughts on this. Honestly though, this is not a subject I really care about. I feel like this arc barely has a first in command, let alone a second. And the group just spends so much time fractured and separated from each other that I feel like there's not enough time for a hierarchy to kind of be created. Especially when there's only like 3 people. And it's not even like in Cross Wars where it was obvious that Nene was the odd man out because she didn't get the new evolution. Here, everybody gets Mega, which is a big improvement. Nobody's really left out anymore, except for the people I want left out. So I don't really think there is like a second in command, but I tried to think of one anyway just so I can have an answer. And I kept flip-flopping between Rika and Henry because first I judged purely on aesthetics. And if we're just going off the stereotypes of what a second in command, you know, is supposed to look or have, it's Rika. Her aura is blue, she's the loner character of this, and her Digimon is a fox, which is kind of similar to a wolf. It's closer than a rabbit is. But then I immediately dismissed that reasoning because this season's not really big on, you know, following tradition in some cases. And then I thought, well, is it Henry? I mean, he is around Takato the most. He's also obviously the smartest. One of you compare him to Izzy, where Izzy kind of, although he wasn't the leader like Tai was, he kind of ran everything. He was coming up with the plans and hacking the universe to figure out what to do next. And I mean, Henry was kind of the planning character, although General Schwarzkopf planned a lot of things too, but they didn't make him the vice president. And I honestly don't remember, did he even plan a lot of stuff? Wasn't the plan during the first arc just to wait around for Digimon to attack and then destroy them? And wasn't the plan in the second arc just to wander around aimlessly in the desert and hope they find Calamon and the Sovereign? And I don't think Henry even planned that, I thought Takato did. And in the third arc, the plan was literally just wait around until the government tells us what to do. It didn't seem like they had Henry around for planning, it just seems like they had him around to wax philosophically and be right 60% of the time. So then it came down to which one of these two has the most leadership experience. And that's Rika. Whenever Takato's not around, Rika has to play babysitter and take control of the group. Henry's never really around to do this because he is always right next to Takato, and whenever Takato's around, he, by default, pretty much takes control and is the leader. So simply based on leadership experience, I think Rika's second in command. If you don't agree with me, I really don't care. I'm not going to be responding to any comments because this is just a subject I don't find interesting at all. And on that note, let's end this little video, shall we? Alright, hope that explains some stuff. Good night.
We try to lie and you deny, but I